Okay, hi everybody. Welcome again to another English class here on verbling.com. My name is Lisa and I'm from the United States. I live in the state of Washington and that's on the West Coast in case you don't know that. This hour we're going to be having a reading class. It's a new word that has come about because of the use of technology, iPods, iPhones, smartphones, things like that. The word is sexting, and we're going to read about it and what it is, what it means, and why are people talking about it nowadays. So if you want to join this class, go ahead and click on the Join Class button. Of course, if you had a reservation, you always can use your reservation in the first 2 minutes of the class, but if you don't use the reservation, that's okay. You can just click on the Join Class button there. Hi, Anthony. How are you? Anthony, how are you?
Hi, are you
Hi.
fine?
You're using your Google effects?
Yeah, I was making a call with a friend, and now my FX appear again.
Okay, wonderful. So, Anthony, where are you from?
I'm from Spain, from Barcelona.
Oh, wow, cool. All right, wonderful. I was in Barcelona in May, so I had a good time there. I was there
Oh, wow,
5 days. Yeah,
wow, cool.
yeah, it was really cool. So how's the
Where are
weather?
you from?
Is it getting cooler yet? The weather,
Is it-
the temperature?
yeah, it's becoming colder, but it's also okay. It's also okay.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't really get very cold there, does it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Oh, it does. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well,
Hi,
welcome to
everybody.
class. Hi, Howard. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And you?
Good. Howard, where are you calling from?
From Colombia.
Oh, cool. All right. Wonderful. And you have a Florida hat on.
Uh, can you repeat me? I
Yeah.
have a lot of noise in this side.
Oh, I thought it's. Does your hat on your picture say Florida?
Okay, yes, it's that from Florida.
Did you go to Florida?
No, that was a gift from my parents.
Oh, okay. Nice. Good. Wonderful. Okay, guys. Well, let's just talk a little bit before we get started because there might be some more people who are going to join us. So, Howard, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself? What do you do?
Uh,
Do you work or are you a student?
I'm working in this
Hmm.
moment. I'm on the office.
Okay.
I'm I'm working for a company.
Hmm.
Um, this is an oil and gas designs, but
Oh, okay. Hmm.
this is that.
Yeah. Are you what is your job? Are you like an engineer or something, or do you work with computers or?
I'm a mechanical engineer, and basically I make designs from piping.
Mm.
No,
Mm-hmm. Cool. How long have you been doing that?
for a long to 7 years.
Wow. Okay. That's a while. Good. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for that. And Anthony, what about you? What do you do?
Also working. I'm working in a online marketing company here in Spain,
Uh-huh.
and the company is operating in Europe and also in South America. And for that, it's important for me improve my English.
Oh, okay. Great. So do you work with clients and English is the common language or is that how it works or?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it is. But I'm working in a technical part. Probably the salespeople have to speak in English more often than me.
Oh, okay.
But also in a technical part, sometimes we have to resolve some issues or take some calls with English.
Okay.
For that, I want to
Yeah.
improve my English.
Great. Okay, well, great. Well, we can get started. I'm going to introduce you guys to this article that I found. yesterday looking around for some articles. Um, Let me put it in the Verbling chat so people can open it there, and I'm going to put it in the screen share also so everybody can see it. This is something new, and it's been happening more and more, basically because of the new technologies that people are using. And so it's specifically related, at least this article is specifically related to what we call teens or teenagers. So people
Okay.
from 13 years of age to about 19 are considered teens. Those are the teen years, 13, 14, 15, like that, all the way up to 19. And this is kind of something that adults now, of course, are wanting to understand their behavior. What are they doing and why are they doing it? And is it a good thing or a bad thing? And that type of thing. So the idea is sexting. So you think of the word texting, right? So everybody probably understands what it means to text somebody. We use it as a verb now. To text somebody means to send a message by text.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so I imagine you guys do that, right? Anthony, do you use WhatsApp? I know it's really popular in Spain.
Yeah, it is. I'm using WhatsApp. Yes.
Yeah, it's probably popular. What about you, Howard?
Yeah,
Is
okay.
WhatsApp
In my
popular?
time, I was the messenger from
Oh,
Hotmail.
yeah.
I used it
Okay.
that.
Yeah. So Hussein, he's in the chat right now in the Verbling chat. He's saying that every time he says the word sexting, it makes him laugh. Well, it's kind of funny because obviously it's a word that they used to put two words together. Of course,
Yeah.
sex and texting. So now we come up with a new word in English, and this is how English, why we have so many new words all the time, is sexting. All right, we're going to learn about what it is. Does anybody have an idea? Have you heard this word before? Anthony, have you heard it before? Sexting?
Yeah, more or less. I think means something like met a girl or try to how I can say to fall in love with a girl using technology, for example, WhatsApp application or that kind of applications.
Yeah.
Between something like that. It is okay or
Yeah, we're going to learn a little bit more about it, but that's kind of the idea, like people, boys and girls, people who might be attracted to each other using text messages, but in a sexual way, you could say, in a sexual way. Howard, have you heard about this word? Because sometimes people just use the English word, so even though you might speak Spanish, sometimes the English word becomes the word that people know. I don't know if you guys have used this word at all before.
Yes, but in Spanish is the same thing that writing in in a normal way.
Mm.
Everybody is to get a date with another person. It's
Trying
the
to get
same
a date,
way. Yeah.
yeah? Yeah.
If
Okay.
you get a good point, you can get the sex, but no,
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah,
don't
we'll
think.
see. Well, you guys are adults, right? So adults might even use it a little bit differently. But this article, we're going to talk about teens and what we also call adolescence. So adolescent is talking about that time period in your life when you're not yet an adult, you're a teenager. All right, so let's get started. So the way I do the reading classes is I like to read first. So I pick a little bit. I'm going to remove that. Pick a little bit of text here, and I read it out loud. So the purpose of that is for you guys to listen to me to see if maybe you understand it just by hearing me speak, or you can see how to pronounce words correctly, that type of thing. And then you guys are going to have chances to read out loud. We're going to take turns. And then I'm going to go over some of these words here. Some of them you might already know, and some of them might be new for you. If you have any questions at any time during the class, just go ahead and ask me. So it doesn't matter if you interrupt or anything. All right, so is sexting normal? And I got this website here. So this is a psychology, Psych Central website. So it has articles related to studies about psychology and things like that. So there's some other topics here related to sexuality and relationships. And then I was looking for some other information, and I found this one, which is on the Daily Beast. So here you can see it's like a picture, a nude person, and the person looking at the nude picture and being sent by email or text usually. And so this is a whole other article about it. So it's definitely being written about right now in the English press, or American press. Okay? All right,
Okay.
so provocative new research suggests sexting may be a new normal part of adolescent sexual development and is not strictly limited to at-risk teens. Researchers have published their findings on teenage sexting and future sexual activity in the journal Pediatrics. Sexting is sending sexually explicit images over digital media, primarily between cell phones. So that's our little definition there, actually, of the word. Okay, Anthony, why don't we start with you, and you can read all of this that I just read.
Okay. Provocative new research suggests sexting may be a new normal part of adolescent sexual development and is not strictly limited to risk teens. Researchers have published their finds on teenage sexting and future findings on teenage sexting and future sexual activity in the journal Pediatrics. Sexting is sending a sexual explicit image over digital media, primarily between cell phones.
Primarily.
Primarily.
Exactly.
Okay.
Primarily.
Okay, primarily.
Okay, so now I'll go and explain some of these words. So when we're doing the reading, you know, one of the most important things is just to get the main idea, but it's also a good opportunity for you to learn some new words. Even if you don't remember them, you know, later today or something, every time you see them or hear them, you're going to become more and more familiar with them and what they mean. So it's just a process, you know, picking up new vocabulary words.
Okay.
Provocative, new, and sometimes a lot of these words might even be similar to Spanish, so that makes it easier.
Yeah.
But provocative means, you know, when something is provocative, it means like, wow, you're kind of interested in it. It's interesting. You're curious about it. So this is describing the new research. So the new research about this sexting thing is provocative. It's interesting. People want to know about it. And what it does is the research suggests, or basically tells us, that probably sexting is normal. It's a new normal. Of course, it's new because before, like when I was a teenager, I didn't have the opportunity to text. I didn't have a phone or something like that. So it's a new normal because it's something new, but it's normal. It's not abnormal or not normal for adolescent, and it's normal in terms of their sexual development, so how a young person grows and becomes a sexual being. And it's not just limited to, or strictly would be like only a certain type of people do this. It would be limited to just these at-risk teens. So at-risk teens are the people who are maybe going to have problems for some reason or another. So an at-risk teenager might be somebody who is more likely to drink alcohol, do drugs, things like that, get in trouble at school. So it's not limited to those type of teenagers. It's normal for probably all types of teenagers. That's the idea.
Okay.
So they have published their findings. Findings means the research. So, you know, scientists, they do the research, they do the study, then they write a paper, and they tell you what they found out about a subject. So that's called their findings. And so they're telling us in this journal called Pediatrics, that's the title of the journal, that this is, you know, basically telling us about sexting and future sexual activity. So if a teenager is sexting with somebody, how is that going to affect their future sexual activity? So what they actually do with somebody else. And so now they give us the definition of what sexting is. So it's specifically when you send a sexually explicit image. So we, of course, use images all the time, but it's sexually explicit means probably you're naked, basically, and some kind of pose maybe, or it's provocative, and you do this over digital media, so like Snapchat or Instagram or I don't know, text message, things like that. So it's primarily used, like most common is between cell phones. So not necessarily email or computers, but specifically mostly through their cell phones. All right. Researchers at the University of Texas Medical Branch at Galveston say the study results indicate that sexting may precede sexual intercourse in some cases. Investigators believe this shows that sexting behavior is a normal sign of teenage sexual activity. This belief is buttressed by the failure to discover a link between sexting and risky sexual behavior over time. In other words, sexting may be becoming a part of growing up. Okay, Howard, you can read this.
Okay, now researchers at the University of Texas Medical Branch at Galveston say the study results indicate that sexting may precede sexual intercourse in some cases. Investigators believe this shows that sexting behaviors is a normal sign of teenage sexual activity. This belief is buttressed
Buttressed.
by the failure to discover a link between sexting and risky sexual behavior over time. In other words, sexting may be becoming a part of growing up.
Okay, good. All right, so these guys were at this University of Texas, some kind of medical branch. So a branch is a part of the university, so it's specifically the medical branch versus like technology or economics or something like that. And they say that the study results indicate, so they show. Another word for indicate is to show. They show that sexting may precede. So precede means to come before. So young people might be sexting before they actually have sexual intercourse. So sexual intercourse is sex, basically, like where you say you go all the way. That's how you make a baby. So sexual intercourse is, so it might be happening before that actually happens. The investigators, so same kind of idea for researchers, investigators, they're the people doing the study. They believe that this shows that, or that this indicates that this is a normal sign of teenage sexual activity. So it's not abnormal. Abnormal would be some things, so only a few people are doing it and it's not very good, maybe. But this is normal. It's okay. And they believe this, or this belief is buttressed by. So another way to say that is supported by. So to buttress something is to support something. So this belief that they have is supported by the fact that they did not find, so the failure to discover, so they did not discover a link, a connection between sexting and risky sexual behavior over time. So risky sexual behavior, risky means like you're having maybe a lot of sex with a lot of different people, maybe you're going to get pregnant or have some kind of sexually transmitted disease. That would be risky, where it's not safe. Okay?
Yeah.
So it did not find a link. They did not find a link for that. So in other words, it may be becoming, so becoming again because it's new, it's just starting to become a part of growing up. So growing up is a phrasal verb that we use when we're talking about what kids do. Kids grow up. They get older, they become more mature, and eventually they become an adult. We say kids grow up. All right, so it's a normal part of growing up. Yeah?
Excuse me. Also, for example, in a company, also can grow up.
Um, Not so much. The company can grow, but we wouldn't say grow up. Growing up is specifically for children. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
The children are growing up, but a company does grow. When it gets bigger and more employees, it's making more money, we can say that the company is growing. Yeah.
Growing, okay.
If you heard
you.
it sometime where somebody said the company has grown up, it means like it went from being like a child to an adult. It would be maybe
Okay.
you could hear it, but it would be kind of a funny situation, you know.
But
Okay.
it can be used in with animals and plants.
uh, Not plants.
No.
No, when the plants are just growing, and you say the plants are growing or the plants are getting bigger, but and you can say the puppy is growing up like a kitten. Yeah. For animals, you can say
Okay.
the kitten is growing up, but mostly it's around kids. Kids grow up, and you say when I grew up, so that was like that time period when you were getting older, you know, you're 5, 6, 10, 12. That's the action of growing up, of maturing, of getting older. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And you could even hear somebody say like, you know, my boss hasn't grown up yet. It means like he's still like a kid, you know, so he's still kind of not so much of an adult, you know. Yeah. Or you could hear something like he still has some growing up to do. It means he still needs to mature. He's not yet so mature. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yes, good. And it's very common, and a lot of people get it mixed up. But it isn't one of those phrasal verbs where you add that preposition to the verb, and it gives it a different meaning. So it's a little different. Hi, Ahmed. How are you, Ahmed?
Hey Lisa, how
Hey,
you doing?
welcome. All right, so we're just talking about sexting, and let me just tell you what it means because they gave us this definition specifically here. So the idea is that teenagers nowadays are sending sexually explicit images. So an image of maybe yourself naked or something like that, and they're sending it to each other over digital media. So like primarily between the cell phones, probably also could be between iPods or something like that, you know. All right, so that's the definition of this word here. And that's what they're talking about. They're trying to figure out, is this normal? Should we be concerned? You know, what are these teens doing, you know? There's always something.
So sexual,
Yeah.
yes. So
Yeah.
sexting is like a mix between sex and texting.
Yes, that's the word. Yeah, the way they made the word. But it's related to not so much sex per se, but sexual images. So
Yeah, I
images.
understand, of course.
Okay. Yes, exactly. Okay. We now know that teen sexting is fairly common, said Dr. Jeff Temple, an associate professor and psychologist at University of Texas Medical Branch at Galveston. For instance, sexting may be associated with other typical adolescent behaviors such as substance abuse. Sexting is not associated with either good or poor mental well-being. Okay, Ahmed, you can read that part there.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, I read it, okay.
Yeah.
We now know that teen sexting is fairly common, said Dr. Jeff Temple, an associate professor and psychologist at University of Texas Medical Branches at Galveston. For instance, sexting may be associated with typical adolescent behaviors such as substance use. Sexting is not associated with either good or poor mental well-being.
Okay, good. So it's fairly common. So Ahmed, what does it mean to be fairly common?
Like it's widely common. Like it's very well known for everyone and taking like a bigger and wide expansion and
Yeah.
yeah.
So another word we could say for fairly would be like it's pretty common, A way I would say it is it happens a lot. If something is common, a lot of people are doing it. It's not out of the norm. It's not something that only a few people do. So it's fairly common that teens are doing this. And so, for instance is a way to say, like, for example, sexting may be associated with. So associated with just means, connected with or linked with other common adolescent behaviors. Substance use. Do you guys know what substance use is? Substance?
Yes,
What is that?
like drugs,
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
that way.
Right. So usually here in the United States, teens might try like marijuana or something like that. So mostly it's drugs. It could also be alcoholic substances, things like that.
Okay.
Yeah. But they're saying that sexting is not associated with, so they didn't make a connection to either good or poor mental well-being. So, keep removing that. What does it mean, Ahmed, mental well-being?
Mental well-being. Mental is something that concerns mind
Uh-huh.
activities. Like yes, it's about the psychological emotion that the human beings
Yep.
feels. That's yeah, by the brain.
Right.
Um, yes. And well-being as like like happiness or something good or
Mm-hmm.
luxury. Like
Yeah, another word you could use is health, mental health or well-being. So when you talk about mental well-being or mental health, you just talk about whether or not, like, you have a good state of mind and you're doing okay mentally. If you had a poor state of mind, then you'd be having some kind of psychological problems or something like that. So they found that it's not associated with either of those. It's just normal. Most teens are actually doing that. So despite this growing body of knowledge, all existing sexting research looks across samples of different groups of young people at one time rather than following the same people over time, said Temple. Because of this, it's unclear whether sexting comes before or after someone engages in sexual activity, he said. Okay, Howard.
Okay, despite this growing body of knowledge, all existing sexting research looks across samples of different groups of young people at one time, rather than following the same people over time, said Temple. Because of this, it's unclear whether sexting comes before or after someone engaged in sexual activity, he said.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, do you guys understand the word despite? You have another way that you could say that, despite this growing body of knowledge?
Yes, it's like in another way.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I would say another way you could say, like, even though,
Okay, even so,
yeah, like even though we have this growing body of knowledge. So when we talk about research, somebody has to start doing the research, and then as more and more people do research about a topic, the body of knowledge or the amount of knowledge that we have grows. So it increases, it gets more, becomes more. So, but what he's saying is that all of the existing research, so all of the studies that have been done so far, they're only looking at groups of teenagers at one time. So just like looking at different groups, but at the same time. They're not really following the same people over time, like over a couple of years or 5 years down the road, what happens to these teenagers, that kind of thing. So he says because of this, because that's not the type of studies they've done so far, it's unclear. So it's not clear. Un just means not clear. They don't know yet if it comes before or after somebody engages in sexual activity. So they don't know yet, are the teens having this sexting first, or are they actually having sex and then sending each other pictures of themselves nude or something like that. All right. Temple and colleagues have been following a diverse group of adolescents in Southeast Texas for 6 years. So here's one study. This is the new study. The teens in the study periodically complete anonymous surveys detailing their history of sexting, sexual activity, and other behaviors throughout the years. In the analysis, Temple and a postdoc research fellow at UTMB, Hai-Jiang Choi, PhD, examined data from the second and third years of their study to determine whether teen sexting predicted sexual activity 1 year later. Okay, Ahmed.
Yes, Lisa?
Starting at Temple and colleagues.
Okay. Temple and colleagues have been following a diverse group of adolescents in Southeast Texas for 6 years. The teens in the study periodically complete anonymous surveys detailing their history of sexting, sexual activity, and other behavior throughout the years. In the analysis, Temple and postdoctoral research fellow at UTMB, Hei-Chong Choi, PhD, examined data from the second and third years of their study to determine whether teen sexting predicted sexual activity 1 year later.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Temple, that's the guy's last name, and colleagues, so the people he works with. They've been following a diverse group. Diverse means lots of different types of kids they're following, so variety, in this Southeast Texas, and they've been doing it for 6 years, so that's over time. And so what they do in their study is the students, the teens, they periodically, do you guys know periodically? Oh, we lost Ahmed. Howard, periodically. Have you heard that word before?
Yes, it's like it's repeated in 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 various when you repeat this um,
Now we would say like now and then.
when you used to do the same.
Uh-huh. Yeah, right. They complete their studies periodically, so it's kind of like saying now and then, or they don't do it all the time, but certain time periods, like maybe every 2 weeks or once a month or something like that,
Yeah.
periodically. Yeah. And it's anonymous. What does anonymous mean?
This when you don't indicates who do that.
Exactly, right. So the kids, that gives them the chance to be honest without like getting caught or somebody knowing who's doing what, right? So they're anonymous, and what they're asking about is, sexting, sexual activity, and other things they might be doing. All right, so let's see. In this analysis, so when you make a study, you do a study, and then you have to, gather your results, and then you have to analyze. So the analysis is when you analyze it, the data, the information that you've got. Postdoctoral is a person who has already got their PhD, and now they're doing more research like after they got their PhD. And so they're examining the data, looking at the data, the information, and they're trying to determine, to figure out whether or not the teen sexting predicted sexual activity 1 year later. Ahmed, welcome back. Do you know the word predicted, Ahmed?
Yes, predicted. Yes, yeah. Like he just expected something like he was expecting something and it just came true. No, like it's like you can predict about the weather just according to the cloud and things like that. It's going to rain. So prediction is something like expecting or
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, usually we say you're making an educated guess. So it's kind of a guess, but it's based on some information that you have.
Mhm.
So they're trying to figure out if you could say, oh, yes, if a teenager does sexting, they probably will be having sex within a year. That's what they're trying to figure out. Okay, they found that the odds of being sexually active as high school juniors was slightly higher for youth who sent a sext. or a naked picture of themselves the previous year, compared to teens who did not sext. Just as importantly, they did not find sexting to be linked with later risky sexual behaviors. An important component of the study is the distinction between actively sending a nude picture versus asking or being asked for a nude picture. Researchers found that actually sending a sext was the important part of the link between sexting and sexual behavior, as opposed to merely asking or being asked for a nude picture. Okay, Howard.
Okay, they found that the odds of being sexually active as high school juniors was slightly higher for youth who sent a sext or naked
Mm-hmm.
picture of themselves the previous year compared to teens who did not sext.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, just as importantly, they did not find sexting to be linked with later risky sexual behaviors. An important component of the study is the distinction between actively sending a nude picture versus asking or being asked for a nude picture. Researchers found that actually sending a sext was the important part of the link between sexting and sexual behavior, as opposed to merely asking or being asked for a nude picture.
Mm-hmm. Good. All right, so when you read this sentence, they found that the odds of, what does it mean if the odds of, you guys heard that before, the odds of something happening? Do you guys
The
know what that
odds
means?
means
Mm-hmm.
possibilities.
Right,
The
yeah.
odds. Right.
Mm-hmm. So we could say the odds of something happening is like the possibility of whether, how, like we sometimes in research they talk about the percentages. It's like 10%,
Yeah.
20%, something like that. Yeah, how, you can also say how likely something is to happen in the future. Yeah, the odds of it happening. High school juniors, that's here in the United States, those people would be about 16 years old. They're usually, yeah, about 16. 17 sometimes. That's the third year of high school, and then you have one more year when you're a senior. So that's the age group they're talking about there. So it was slightly higher. So a little bit. Slightly just means like a little bit higher. Your odds of, becoming sexually active, so that means having sex, starting to have sex with other people. It's a little bit higher if you were the person who actually did send a sext or a naked picture of yourself to somebody else, compared to the people who did not. So the kids who did not do that, they probably didn't engage as much. All right, but just as importantly, so still, the research shows that it's not linked. So sending a sext or a naked picture of yourself is not linked to later risky sexual behavior. So it doesn't mean you want to just be crazy about it, So let's see. An important component of component of, it means a part of, like a part of the study is the distinction or like the difference between if you're actively doing something or passively doing something. And okay, hold on, Jim. Can you close the door, please? And there's $1 right there for him to take the bus. Okay, bye. All right, my kids just came home. Okay, so sorry about that. All right, so there's the difference there. So they found that the people who actually were sending a sext, they were, a little bit, they had, that was part of the link between the behavior. But if you were just the person who asked for somebody to send you one, like, hey, send me a naked picture of yourself, or if you're the person being asked, then there wasn't as much link. So merely just means like only. If you're only asking, whoops, then it's not as much of a link. All right, so being a passive recipient of or asking for a sext does not likely require the same level of comfort with one's sexuality, said Choi. Sending a nude photo may communicate to the recipient a level of openness to sexual activity, promote a belief that sex is expected, and serve to increase sexual advances, all of which may increase the chance of future sexual behavior. Researchers conclude, in their conclusion, that sexting may serve as a predictor behavior to actual sexual behaviors, or as activity that indicates one's readiness to take intimacy to the next level. Okay, Ahmed. Ahmed, you want to read there? Your microphone is muted, Ahmed.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's very interesting. Okay. Being a passive recipient of or asking for sex does not likely require the same level of comfort with one's sexuality, said Troy. Sending a nude photo may communicate to the recipient a level of openness to sexual activity, promote a belief that sex is expected, and serve to increase sexual advances, all of which may increase the chance of future sexual behavior. Researchers conclude that sexting may serve as predictor behavior to actual sexual behaviors or as activity that indicates one's readiness to take intimacy to the next level.
Okay, let me go over some of these things. So, being passive. So, what is the difference between being passive and being active, Ahmed? You know?
Yes, yes, of course. I know the grammar.
Okay.
Passive something is unknown. When is not is unknown. Okay, or something mischievous, or um, like it has a bad, yeah, like has a bad connotation of
Well,
being
not always. You could say, well, if you say somebody is passive aggressive, that's kind of a negative connotation. But in this case, if you're passive, it means like you're not really doing anything. You're not the person doing the action. You're just,
oh yes, and this what this yes.
yeah. So, for example, like right now, when you are reading, we are passively listening. We're just listening. We're not really doing anything. You're active. You're actively reading. But now we're talking about it, so now both of us are more active, and Howard's a little bit more passive right now. But in this case, we're talking about a recipient. Howard, do you know the word recipient? What would it be? Yeah.
With the
Uh,
language. I'm sorry, just go on. Go on.
Go ahead, Howard.
okay, the person who receives
Exactly.
that action.
Right. Yeah, so in this case, the person who receives the picture, the naked picture of somebody, right? This what they're calling sext. Instead of a text, it's a sext. So some people are just passively receiving or getting these pictures on their phones or something like that. So if you're one of those people, you might not have the same level of comfort with your own sexuality. So you're not necessarily ready to have sex, but you don't mind looking at the pictures, so you're very passive. You're not active, you're not doing anything, you're just looking at a picture. But if you're the person who's actively sending, so you take a picture of yourself and now you're sending it to somebody, this may do these things. So they listed a bunch of them. It might communicate to the receiver, the recipient, the person getting it. They might tell them, like, I'm open. You could say, like, I'm open to having sex with you. That would be openness. I'm willing to do it. It might be a possibility. It might promote a belief that sex is expected. So the person who gets the picture might think, oh, this person wants to have sex. Like, we should be having sex because they're sending me these nude pictures. And it also might serve, like that's, the idea would be that it is increasing sexual advances. Do you guys know what a sexual advance is? Like if you're out on a date or something, somebody makes a sexual advance toward you, what would that be like? Do you know?
Yeah, it's like training.
Training? Yeah, well, okay, like talking to somebody is not a sexual advance, but saying maybe some specific words, like You know, you want to go back to my house, that's a sexual advance. It's
Yeah.
like, or maybe if you start putting your hands on somebody's shoulder, or you go to kiss them, or something like that, that's a
It's like
sexual advance. Yeah?
it's like flirting.
Flirting? Yeah, but a little bit more than flirting, like going a little bit farther, like you actually are trying to tell the person, like, hey, I'm ready, are you ready? You know, that
Okay.
kind of idea. Yeah. Like trying to kiss somebody, maybe. That's a sexual advance. So it's
So
kind of
there might be sexual gestures, like
a gesture. Yeah,
Um.
exactly.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
An advance would be like a gesture. Good.
Hmm.
Okay, and so all of these things, you know, might increase the chance of somebody, you know, having sex in the future. If they're sending these pictures and people are thinking these things, they might think, oh, wow, well, does this mean we're going to have sex? Okay, all right. Researchers conclude. So when you do a study, you take the information, you analyze it, and then you make a conclusion. And that's like what you say final, like your final word. What do you think this all means? And so to conclude is the verb. To conclude, it may be. And so a lot of times researchers, it's very vague. It may be or it may not be a predictor. So you might be able to tell. So you know, as a parent, you might want to know, you know, does my teen do this? And does that mean they're ready for sex and that type of stuff? So it could indicate one's readiness. Readiness is, you know, being ready to do something. And in this case, to take intimacy to the next level. So intimacy is sometimes defined as like when you're really close with somebody, maybe your friends, maybe your boyfriend and girlfriend, and then the next level would be to actually have sex, to not just be holding hands or kissing or taking a walk together, but, you know, going to bed together, that kind of idea. All right. So, Howard, oh, we lost Ahmed again. So, Howard, for you to practice speaking, what can you tell me that you understood about this article? If you were going to tell your friend now after class what you did in your class, what would you tell your friend? What was this article about?
Yeah. I will go into to say that we was talking about the new way to get a sexual date used for the young people,
Yeah.
and that it was studied or analyzed for very important persons, very important people like doctors, PhDs,
Yeah.
and they have a good conclusion
Yeah.
that could may indicate that the people is ready to have a sexual relation with another person.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Right. And you would tell them the new word, right? That's called sexting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Ahmed, if you were going to tell your friends what you read about the article, what would you tell them? What was this article about?
I would tell them about that sexting might be a beginning or a sign for sexual behavior,
Mm-hmm.
and so once they see such a sign, they must take the procedures are the good procedures according to the psychological view. Like if they have a shrink or something, they must have to they must talk with them about this sign, so he might find better way to deal with s- uh, to deal with their children or something like that.
Right. But you came in a little bit later. So in the beginning, we were reading the article, and they were saying that this is a new normal, a normal part. So they're not thinking that it's abnormal or maybe, you know, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is something maybe to be aware of. So let's just say, Ahmed, I don't know, do you have any children now?
No, I haven't married yet.
Okay. So, if you were to have children, would you be concerned? Would you be worried if your teenage son started getting pictures of naked girls on his phone?
The, yes, of course. It's kind of offensive, in
Uh-huh.
our tradition and our country, according to our
Yeah,
religion.
and
But
for Muslim, are you Muslim?
yeah, I'm Muslims.
Uh-huh.
I'm
Okay.
Muslim, yeah.
Yeah.
So this kind of thing.
Wouldn't it be happening?
No, but I'm very open-minded with him. Okay, but I will
Yeah.
speak with this thing like it's kind of stuff of marriage. You can do it for marriage, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, and this starts when they are really in early ages. The
Yeah.
concept, the level of uh, connecting or trying to deliver some kind of information will be just in a reasonable way.
Yeah.
Just to let them know the right and wrong, and just to put them always in good status of mind and health, all this stuff.
Yeah. So I'm curious, this article is talking about teenagers in the United States. I don't
I see.
know what teenagers are doing in other countries, but I imagine it might be similar. But what do you think in the Muslim countries? Do you think this is something that people would get really worried about or upset about, or do you think it's happening anyways, or no?
Actually, here in Egypt, it's different.
Yeah.
We deal with that kind of stuff like it's a danger sign,
Okay.
okay, of being way from the right path. All right.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So we will try to think, why did you come this far? Why did you came to this point actually of dealing with others? So there will be something like and this will be explained as on enough attention to in the family and the atmosphere, and we will try to fix it. If
Yeah.
there's no intentions from the mother toward the children, of course she must give them time. If the
Yeah.
father he just left his role or his part of raising his children and teaching them the kind of uh, good methods of teaching such things like that, he has something wrong, and he must spend time with his children, try to understand how they think and where are they thinking, and uh, it's kind of like of giving them like the enough care, whether in a mental or
Yeah. Yeah. So it definitely would be a concern then if people knew this was happening. What about in Colombia, Howard? Do you think this is happening with teenagers there or not really?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Here is normal.
Uh-huh.
From a lot of time.
Uh-huh.
Maybe I used that way to take some dates, but not in the sexual way. But in this moment is more easy to get that.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's normal. I think.
Do you think it's normal for teenagers or for older people to do it? Or both?
And for both,
Yeah, for both.
it's including the old people.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Do you ever have any problems with it? Like people sending photos and then a lot of other people seeing it who it wasn't supposed to be seen by those people, because that's one of the problems that happens here in the US is sometimes somebody will do this and then they'll share it with a bunch of other people.
Yeah, yeah. The problem is they don't have privacy. You can put your photos, your pictures in the web, and all the people can see that. That is a
Yeah.
very big problem. But
Right. Right.
in a good way, you can do that with a closer person and don't have that problem.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what this article is about, is the idea that, teens are doing it with each other for people that they know. But maybe you guys also heard about this recently, this famous American actress. She had some of her photos stolen from her
Yeah.
iCloud, I guess. Whoops, here we go. And they were put up on the internet or something like that. And so now she's saying that that's a sex crime because somebody was stealing her photos of her that she had that were on her phone. you know.
Yeah, and in this moment is growing the topic about the bullying. You can take a
Yeah.
photo, a picture from a person made you sad, and and share that in the Facebook with all the people, and take bullying for that.
Right. Right. Yes. Yeah, that's the concern, is that too. In this article, they kind of talking about the same research, but they're talking about it a little differently. So their title was "Sexting is the new first base." So you guys heard about that? What first base is?
Yeah.
Okay, so usually it's a sexual thing, and like you get to first base, maybe that's just like kissing, you're
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, something like that. And so they're talking about, it might be surprising to parents, the idea of this, but a lot of people are doing it apparently, and but basically, the idea is that they're trying to understand it still. Some of the concerns here would be that it's like child pornography. It could lead to that or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say probably Ahmed, even though the researchers are calling it normal adolescent behavior,
Hmm.
it's probably uncomfortable. That word is probably good. It's probably uncomfortable for parents to think about it, because especially if you're the parent of the kid who is sending the pictures, like the person who is sending the naked photos, that would be a problem. How I didn't ask you, Howard. Howard, do you have any kids?
Yeah, but it is 6 months old.
Oh, baby.
I have a lot of time to
Well, yeah, and you know what?
investigate.
It might all change in 16 years, so you don't know what you're
Oh,
going to have to deal with.
It's such a difficult age.
Yeah, every generation has something that the parents don't like that they're doing. So,
yeah.
Ahmed, when you were a teenager, do you remember uh, what kinds of things your parents didn't like you doing or something, or what they were worried about in
Yeah,
Egypt?
when I was such an age, an
Yeah, like,
adolescent.
yeah, yeah.
Um, no, well, actually, at this age, I loved my neighbor's girl, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, but it was like innocent love. It
Uh-huh.
has nothing to do with this stuff. I was loving like an innocent and a pure way.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So yeah, I didn't experience this kind of love,
Hmm.
this kind of things.
Um,
We didn't have phones like now.
right,
This time like
exactly.
cell phones. Yeah, this is married, but technology makes you exposed. All your secrets, all stuff just can be sent to your email, to your website accidentally, and you suddenly become exposed. So
Yeah,
once you take
exactly.
picture, this is your action, and the actions have consequences. So
Yeah,
everyone
sure.
should put this in consideration. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. Howard, when you were a teenager, uh, do you remember this time period in your life? Would you have wanted to do this? Send pictures or get pictures?
Yeah, for a little time,
Yeah.
will be involved in that, but
Uh-huh.
sincerely, I don't get any good results with that.
Yeah, so it's not worth it.
Yes, because I know a lot of girls that were were nor my type.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, not your
Um,
type. They weren't your type. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh, Lisa,
Well,
do you know something?
yeah, what?
Do you know what parents here does in this
What?
age?
No.
They give their children a mobile with no camera. You know?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No camera.
So and
Good
once
idea.
they make sure that they are grown up enough, they can give them this one. So
I see.
that's
Oh.
yeah, this is another way of solution.
Yeah, that's a good solution. Yeah, to see whether or not somebody is mature enough to handle the,
That's
the
right.
the camera. Right. Good point. Thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, that's a good idea to know what other parents are doing, you know? So maybe that will help. Well, thanks, guys, for coming to class and participating. It's something new, something that parents have to think about nowadays that didn't exist, you know, even 10 years ago. So this is the
Yeah.
new world. Thanks, guys.
This interesting subject.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Yeah,
Thank
take
you.
care. See you next time.
Bye.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.